Hello and welcome to NARC Live on Wednesday the 14th of August 2024, coming to you live from Norfolk on the east coast of England with Tammy M0TC.
Hello.
And me, David G3PNR. It's good to be back. It's been a month, since the last one. On the show tonight, back in time 26 years for a talk given at Norfolk Amateur Radio Club by Bill Higgins G3PNR, the then president, and the part that he played in the war with radio. We have club and members news. And we find out what on earth this is. We've had quite a few entries. If you think you know what it is though, and some quite interesting entries as well. They aren't all the same by any means, then do drop us a note on BATC or Facebook and we'll read them out when we get to the competition. As I said, it's lovely to be back with you. We've been meeting the last three Wednesdays at CNS, as I'm sure you know if you're an avid online follower. So it's good to be back here for tonight. So we're going to tell you about some of the things firstly for the club news, and the big event that's coming up for us this weekend is Lighthouses on the Air. It's International Lighthouse and Lightship Weekend, excuse me, which is an event which radio amateurs around the world actually celebrate by activating lighthouses and lightships all around the world. It's also, for many people, including Haysborough Lighthouse, which is this picture, it's an open day as well on the Sunday. So it's this Saturday, the 17th, and Sunday, the 18th of August. Malcolm G3PDH is organising it. His email address is on there. They've got operators for the Saturday morning, but there's still lots of spaces on Saturday afternoon. So if you can help and you'd like to operate, it's lovely operating. And I must say, particularly a plug on the Saturday, because it's not open to the public and it's really just us there. It's a lovely way to both to be there because there aren't lots of the public sort of around you, and you can actually explore and have a look yourself, and the acoustics and everything tend to be a little bit easier. So if you're a newcomer to the hobby as well, or a newcomer to our club, this is a great day. I mean, do visit either day, but the best day is definitely the Saturday, the 17th. And in the afternoon, as I said, we've got some openings for operators and a few on Sunday as well. If you are operating, there's opportunities for both voice and CW, more easily on voice on the Saturday because of the number of public that will be around on the Sunday. But please bring your own headphones and or keys as appropriate. So as I said, contact Malcolm, G3PDH, on that email address on your screen now if you'd like to come and join us, or particularly if you want to be on a roster. But if otherwise, just turn up. We'd love to see you. Now, I had a couple of surprise emails in the last couple of weeks, randomly really, because they're pictures from the RSGB which were taken at the 2023 convention. I mean, we're now just in planning meetings now for the 2024 convention. But anyway, it's nice to receive them, and they're pictures of awards that were awarded at the AGM by the RSGB. So let's have a look at the first one. And this is Roger G3LDI, and this is a picture of him receiving the Newbury Trophy from John McCullough, who's the president of the RSGB. So well done to you, Roger. I have sent this also to Roger, so he's got a personal copy. And next up, this is a lot of the NARC contest team. Of course, not everybody who's in the contest team, but everybody who is at the convention and able to take part in this picture. We can see Jim there, Alan, Andy, Roger, John McCullough in the middle again, the president of the RSGB, wearing white gloves, which does look good. I wonder if he's a snooker, one of the snooker umpires, yeah, as well. Mike Cook, G40OC, there's Chris, and there's Peter, Phil, and then Dick on the right hand side. So lovely, well done to all of you, and of course to everybody else who's in the contest group but just weren't at that convention to receive the trophy. That's the G5RV trophy. Well done to all of you. Now, if you were at the club a couple of weeks ago, or you've seen the newsletter, you'll know that Tony Gould, G4UAM, passed away in July. He was a member, and a very active member, of this club, actually a bit before my time, because I'm sure I would have remembered him, partly because he comes from Lingwood, which is where I was brought up, and also he was very keen on ATV. I'm sure lots of you know Tony, or remember Tony, and his wife Anne has sent me details of the funeral, and she really would like a few radio members to go. Normally Tammy and I go to pretty much every member funeral. We just can't this Saturday because of a wedding commitment. So I do hope that there'll be some of you can spare some time to go on Saturday. It's at Lingwood Church at midday, the funeral, and then followed by a wake at Lingwood Village Hall, and all of you will be very welcome. And as I said, specifically asked me to ask, so I do hope that if you knew Tony, you can spare an hour or so just to go and pay your respects and represent the club and the hobby as well. And today I had an email from Martin G7UGB, and he asks if any NARC member could help him test his HF Packer amp. And we've got some pictures here. He's just finished making this. The instructions go through the testing process, but Martin doesn't have the necessary test gear, like a dummy load and a watt meter, for example, a power meter. He doesn't want to just connect 12 volts until it's been looked at, as it's taken him a long time to build. And we can see that, look at that. There's quite a lot to build in there. 2 layers of boards. There's
all those windings.
Relays. Yeah, there's a lot, isn't it? It's lovely. It really does look nice, Martin. I'm looking forward to seeing that anyway. So if you've built one of those by chance, you would be perfect to help Martin check it out. But if you haven't and you feel you can help him, maybe this coming Wednesday at the club, you could bring the test equipment. He's mentioned specifically a dummy load and watt meter. I've got certainly a dummy load which you can use as well, Martin. But we'll see if anybody comes forward. It would be really nice if someone knows something about that and can help him test that Packer amp, which I should think has also got an ATU in it, looking at those relays as well. So thanks very much from Martin. And finally, a picture from you. I do always ask for pictures that you share with us in the club. And Paul, M1AFQ, he's updated his shack and sent us this very nice, tidy looking picture. There's lots of different radios there to look at. I'm trying to figure what the one in the right in the middle, that might be a 7300 or a 9700, mightn't it? Bottom left, that's a Yaesu. Is
that a Teletubby on the top there?
897. You've recognised the Teletubby. There you go, Tammy. Brilliant. Yeah, there's some nice radios there and everything. Thank you very much for sharing that, Paul. There's a nice, tidy shack. Mine looks nothing like that, I can tell you. Does it, Tammy?
No comment.
And have I got any cuddly toys on mine?
No comment.
Anyway, what have you been up to? We're back to our usual cycle of alternate weeks for NARC Live. So do keep in touch with us. Just send us anything you've got for the club to radio@dcpmicro.com. If it's more appropriate, I'll put it in a newsletter. It's easy for people to read and click on links and emails and things like that. But particularly if there's pictures and things, we'd love to show them here. Just send them to radio@dcpmicro.com. We'll be back here in 2 weeks' time on a Wednesday. So if you can let us have it by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Now we go to the competition, which we set last time.
Should and actually, little people first?
Oh no, little people. Sorry, I'll read the script.
You got ahead of yourself.
Typed. Sorry. Okay. Is this honestly? I just share this with you. You know, guys, how long we've been doing this now. This is 4 years plus. But just missing 1 week, sort of thing. It does make you don't quite flow into it. Do you feel the same way, Tammy, about it? I certainly have when I've sat in front of the computer this afternoon, from about 4ish or something, to write everything, and it doesn't quite flow the same way. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. Now over to my line manager, Tammy, for little people.
Here's the little people. I don't know what to say about it now. Have you ever wondered what to do with all those pocket watches?
I haven't got any pocket watches, have I?
No, probably not.
That's very good. An alarm clock as well. Yeah, that's really good. Actually, it does look like a donkey. It's just ingenuity and how they come up with a different picture every day. I have no idea how they do that. But that's the web address if you want to have a look for yourself. miniature-calendar.com, a new picture every day. And Tammy picks one for us. And I try and remember to introduce it. Lovely. Thanks very much, Tammy.
Should we go to the What on Earth now?
We could do. So, when we met 4 weeks ago tonight, we showed you this picture, which was something actually in this studio, and asked you, what on earth is this? Oh, but I like it. I'm sorry, I must just refer to that little people thing, just whizzing back for that in a moment. Daniel M7GDR has sent us a really good title for it, Beating the Time.
Yeah, sounds good.
Very good, yeah. Okay, so this is it. What on earth is this? No other entries from here, but we've got plenty of people.
There is one
is there
entry,
one? Where is that?
Yeah, Steve
yes.
G0KY. Is it a geranium crystal?
Germanium.
Germanium, sorry, not geranium.
No.
Germanium.
1-1 for a crystal set.
For a crystal set.
Okay. Daniel M7GDR, everybody else who emailed us now. This week's NARC Live mystery item looks to me like a box that will have printed on its lid the words Dr. Cecil's Radio Crystal. Within that box lies a piece of lead sulfide in its mineral form, also known as galena. Galena. A semiconductor that, together with a sharp wire, creates a diode used in early cat's whisker detector radio receivers.
Kev M0KKM, I think the latest What on Earth is a lump of galena as used with a cat's whisker in early receivers. As an alternative, it could be a fill-in I lost a few weeks back.
Oh dear. Right, and while we're reeling from that, Brian M7SEY says, I believe it could be some kind of fire starter kit. World War II maybe, or even World War I. By striking the bright metal bit with any metal object to hand in order to produce spark to set the fire, wool, fleece, wadding alight, and then use that to make a fire.
Tom G8XQD looks to me like a piece of natural germanium rock. I said it right that time. Ideal for making a vintage reconstruction crystal set radio.
David G0ELJ says this week's item is a piece of galena used as a detector in crystal sets. They often come complete with spare cat's whisker. I've still got one made by Iverlek.
Martin G7UGB, I think this week's mystery object is a large fill-in from a tooth.
Honest, that's how it came in, isn't it?
In fact, so large that the tooth fairy came and left a £1 coin instead of a sixpence.
This is more like Crime Watch now. Is this your... I mean, if it is Kev's, maybe you need to give us some identifying features. Let's move on. Julian M0NUX says, I think it might be a galena crystal as used in the receivers of not so long ago. Eponymous, sorry, that word.
I thought you just missed a word out there.
Yeah, I did, sorry. Eponymous receivers of not so long ago.
John G8VPE, I reckon this little gem from yesteryear is a galena crystal, which is lead sulfide. Just when your cat's whiskers...
What?
Oh, just what your cat's whiskers are for. I remember listening to the home service on my first crystal set when I was 9 years old, which was 65 years ago. Dun, dun, dun.
And Bruce G4KZT says, I think this is a piece of galena as used in the original crystal set receivers with a cat's whisker fine wire to find the sensitive part of the crystal. This formed what we now know as a diode used as a detector to demodulate AM radio signals.
Colin M7OPB, is it a piece of meteorite, the small bits they call meteorite shrapnel?
I think all of that's believable.
It does look like
and
a
even the
bit
filling
meteorite,
is believable, but Tammy is now going to reveal what it is.
Dun dun dun, it is a crystal.
It is. And I think we have to just credit as well one particular person. I don't think you can get any extra points for this, but yeah, I'm going to show it this camera because the first person I think to enter this competition was Daniel M7GDR, and from memory it came in, within minutes of it, so he must have seen this. And this was actually something that a friend of Tammy and mine who did the model railway circles found in one of his relatives' houses, and indeed it does say on it, and he thought I'd be interested in it, and it does say Dr. Cecil's Radio Crystal, and inside there, this is where it all goes horribly wrong, because we haven't rehearsed this, that is the very thing.
Is it just like a little bit of rock?
Yeah, and it is just a little, it's not... Kev, I'm really sorry about that.
That's really blurry.
Yeah, it is. Sorry. Kev, I don't think it's your filling, mate.
It's about the right size, though.
That's a big filling.
Can I touch it?
Really? You can, yeah. Just don't get an electric shock.
Oh, I pulled the stuff out now. Oh, it's quite shiny.
Anyway, there we are. I haven't seen a piece of this for real, not separate like this. And this is how, I guess it used to be sold in little boxes like this to enthusiasts. Anyway, thank you very much to all of you for entering. And thanks to Ashley, our friend who sent this to me. Just said this is more for the sort of thing we'd like than him, because it was what gave us the idea to use it.
It's alive.
So while
now,
Tammy puts that
jumping.
alive,
Right,
all right,
anyway.
now we're going to move on and say to you, do you know for this next competition, what on earth is this?
Oh, hang on, sorry, I'm not even on the thing, am I? There we go. What on earth is this?
Look at that. Do you know what that is, or what it's used in, or from, or whatever? You know what to do. You've got just under 2 weeks to let us know. And drop us a line to radio@dcpmicro.com by 3 o'clock on Wednesday week if you know what that is, or what it's from, or what it's for. Now, before we introduce tonight's special programme, special film that we're going to show you, just to let you know what's happening this week at the club. As I mentioned earlier, of course, we've got International Lighthouse weekend, with this club activating Haysborough Lighthouse, and of course lots of other lighthouses around the country on Saturday and Sunday. On Sunday at 7 o'clock, the GB2RS News on GB3MB. On Monday at 7:30, the Monday Night Net on GB3MB. At 8 o'clock, the 80 metre CW Net on 3.543 MHz. And then next Wednesday, a week from tonight, we won't be here in the studio, we'll be back at CNS. And we've got a special guest, Marco DM5ML. Now he's a member of the Koblenz Club, and you will have noticed on many newsletters, I'm sure, us mentioning that we have Koblenz Skeds once a month, because Koblenz is a twin city with Norwich, and their radio club is also informally kind of twinned with us, and we've been doing this for many, many years. And Marco is a member of that club, and he's coming, actually he's here now in Norfolk on holiday, which is wonderful, and he's going to come and see us next Wednesday at CNS. It's just an informal gathering really of it, so nothing formal, no formal presentations or anything, but it'd be very nice to meet Marco. So if you've come on the Koblenz Skeds and you'd like to meet Marco and let's find out what his club does, how they weathered the pandemic, and how they're doing now. All those things you'll be able to ask Marco when you meet him next Wednesday at CNS, and then we'll be back here for NARC Live in 2 weeks from tonight. And as I said, please keep in touch with your stories and your pictures. We do really enjoy them. And of course, this card we're always happy to send. We send about one a week to somebody to cheer them up. Just send it to radio@dcpmicro.com. All we need is the name and address of who you'd like us to send it to. They don't have to be into radio. They certainly don't have to be a member. And we'll send it anywhere you like. We'll add your name to ours. So that's good. Thank you very much. Now on to the main event, and this is probably the first time I think that we've done something like this. In fact, even when we used to meet regularly at the school and show the occasional videos and things like that, I don't remember us ever finding anything quite like this. But Gordon G3PXT had a copy of a videotape of a film made by Jack Simpson. Actually, he was a member of the Norfolk Amateur Radio Club certainly in the 90s, and he made a film of Gordon's dad, Bill Higgins G3PNR, who was a founder member of the Norfolk Amateur Radio Club and the club's president at the time, and the time was January the 21st, 1998. And at that time, by the way, the club met at the Ugly Bug Inn in Colton. In fact, that's where I first joined the club. It was about that, so it's 26 years ago, and sometime around then, the chairman was John Wadman, G0VZD. You don't really see him much in this film, but the film's really well done. There were several people then in the club who worked for Anglia TV, and I believe, from what Jim tells me, that there's a few of those who helped processing and editing it. So as well as the talk which Jack gives, which is really interesting, which Bill gives, you will also see lots of people who were members of the club at that time, because there were lots of audience shots taken and then edited in. Not as easy, of course, as it is now to edit as well. So, especially if you were a member of the club at that time, even if you're just watching for your own face and recognise it. But this really is a fascinating talk, because Bill was a special ops executive. Anyway, we're going to find out. But before we play the film, we're just going to show you a short introduction, because I talked to Gordon, who was at the club last week, and we did a short film of that, because we thought nobody better to introduce it than him. And by the way, a quick thanks as well to Robert G4T UK, who took the original videotape from 20 odd years ago and processed it for us so that we could show it neatly on NARC Live. So without further ado, no more interruptions from us. Here is the film, firstly with an introduction by Gordon G3PXT. Gordon, we're about to see a wonderful film from 1998, the Norfolk Amateur Radio Club. and your dad, Bill Higgins, is going to give a talk. And you're just going to give us a little bit of background now about this talk, aren't you? So firstly, can you say what your dad was?
My dad was an SOE, which is a Special Ops Executive. His missions were to head behind enemy lines, to pass back information over the radio.
From Germany?
From Germany.
Wow, right.
So he was way behind enemy lines with no backups. And I had a radio and a transmitter and a receiver. And those were then used on certain times at certain frequencies to pass the information back to the UK about where the enemy lines were and everything else that was necessary. So,
and now this radio, you mentioned to me a little while ago, which is why I also wanted to talk to you, for everybody at home as a bit of background. You still have this radio?
This radio I have, my father left in a barn in Belgium in 1948. The transmitters that came with the radio had a, I don't know what to call it, but they burnt out. You pulled the switch and you literally burnt the transmitters out so they couldn't be used by the enemy. So the radios he used to often give to people to listen in on to the broadcasts and the BBC. But this particular one was left in a barn. And in about 1986, when he went back to Belgium, he went to the farm where he'd left it, and it was still on the barn shelf above our in the barn. Wow. And that's now in my possession, tucked away nicely out of the way.
Well, that's a wonderful story. Thank you very much for sharing this. I know that you got the original tape, and then Robert G4T UK kindly updated it up for us for a transmission now, and we're going to see the film. Thanks very much, Gordon.
No problem. But the other thing is, whilst he was over there, he used to use lightning arresters on churches for burial.
Right.
And whilst he was back in '86, he visited a number of the churches to see the vicars and informed them that their lightning arresters for the last 40 plus years had not been any good because he had cut them through in 1948. And a lot of them were then repaired.
Wow, thank you. Well, we look forward to seeing the film. Thanks very much for sharing it with us.
No problem.
He's not unless I'm eating. All right, good evening, all. Good evening, all. Get that camera going. I got inveigled into this by David. Last year sometime, he called me at my worst. He said, can you give us a talk next year? I thought, well, next year's a long time off. Yes, I'll do it. And then suddenly last week, John said, oh, you're giving us a talk next week, did you know? I didn't. Anyway, what I'm going to tell you is a little bit of potted history of my life. A few anecdotes about the war years, or pre-war years, and how I helped Hitler to prolong the war for 4 years. I did work for the Germans. Well, first of all, let's go back to 1920. My mother had a baby. Unfortunately, it was me. So I am old enough to do the things I'm telling you. I was born November 1920. And even as a small child, there was a little bit of a tearaway. And the chap who delivered coal to our pub, I was born in a pub, he was responsible for me getting into most of my troubles. First of all, I started off fighting the War of the Roses. Because there I was born as a pub in Lancashire, in Oldham, and the border between the two counties, Lancashire and Yorkshire, ran right through the middle of the pub. One part of the pub could open till 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, the other half could stay open till 10:30. So there used to be an exodus from one bar to the other. Apart from that, I was the firstborn of 6 children. And I was born in the best room of the best bedroom over the best room in the pub, which was in Lancashire. So my father had to cycle 7 miles to Manchester to register my birth as a Lancastrian. And when he came back exhausted, he had to have a pint, so somebody in the bar said, well, you silly old devil, if you'd have said he was born over the tap room, you could have gone 100 yards up the road and registered in Yorkshire. So that's what he did with my brothers and sisters. So they were all Yorkshire tykes. I was the only Lancastrian in the family. So I had a war with them. Anyway, it was 11-year-old when this chap taught me to ride a motorcycle. And one Sunday he came, brought this big motorbike, rough Superior, started it up, put me on it, and he said, you go 3 times around the track and you can have it if you don't fall off. So I got on the bike. I couldn't touch the floor, not without laying the bike down. And I went 3 times around the track and then waved him goodbye and went home. About 2 miles to go home. And on the way home I come up behind a big black Wolseley car and it wasn't going fast enough. So I passed it. Then I heard bells. I thought, well, it's too late for the church bells. I wonder what they are. And he followed me home. So I started life with a record at 11-year-old. Riding a motorcycle, not insured, underage, and being on the highway. Exceeding the speed limit. Making rude signs to the police car. And fortunately for me, the judge, the magistrate rather, he used the pub. And he had the farm behind the pub. And he told Mother, he said, if he'll stick to riding the bike in my field behind the pub by the bowling green, he said, we'll let him off this time. So I was lucky I got off. My life has been a series of luck all the time. I've escaped with many times when I should have either been executed or captured, and I managed to get away. But because I was able to ride a motorbike at 11-year-old, Clem Beckett came to me in 1934 when I was 14-year-old, and he said, I can get you a job riding a motorbike, very well paid. So I said, where? He said, well, meet me next Saturday, he said, and we'll go. So on the following Saturday I met this chap near his place, got in his car with him, and we went to Bellevue, Manchester, the fairground. And he said, this is where you ride a motorbike, here. And he pointed to the Wall of Death. The first time the Wall of Death had come to England from Germany, 1934. I was 14-year-old and I rode the Wall of Death. The first time I did it was Saturday afternoon, and I never got a trial, I just went straight on and rode it. Nothing to it, it's like being on the road once you're up. And he said, can you do another show at tea time? So I said, yeah, all right, getting well paid for this. When I went in tea time to do the second show, he got a lioness on the tank. I don't think much of this. He said, don't worry. He said, she never smiles because she hasn't got any teeth, so she doesn't bite you. So he put the lioness on the tank, and away I went, round and round, then down again. And I got more money that time. So this is a good idea. And I did that several times in the following years. Whenever that show came to Bellevue, he would call me and I would go down and ride a Wall of Death for him. When I was 17, he came after me one day, he said, I can get you a brand new motorbike on a holiday in a warm country. This was beginning of 1938. So I said, what do I have to do? He said, nothing. He said, get free clothing, motorbike, all the petrol you want, and a holiday in a warm country. I said, right, when do I go? He said, as soon as you like, sign these papers. And I signed, and I found myself dispatch riding in the mountains of Spain. I joined the Civil War in Spain. I don't know to this day which side I was fighting on. All I know is that I was riding a motorbike in the mountains, and some silly devil there said, you'll have to go out in twos and you both take the same message. And I said, why? Well, don't ask silly questions. He said, you go in twos, ride 100 yards apart, and you both take the same message. That way you make sure the message gets through. I thought, well, I ain't going to lose mine. I put it in my shirt pocket. So I was doing this. This went on for about 3 or 4 months. Beautiful countryside, a brand new Norton to ride, and really glorious. Then one day we were sent out up in the mountains, going along a mountain pass. There's a sheer wall that side, 20 feet of road, 200 feet drop to the river. And the same over the other side of the river. We were bowling along nicely, about 30 miles an hour. My colleague in front come off the motorbike, went into the side. So I drove up to him to see why he got off. And he got a bullet hole clean through his head. And then I heard the sniper's bullets missing me, hitting the rocks. And I thought, well, this for a game of soldiers. They're using real bullets. I'm going home. So I jumped on the bike, went straight down to San Sebastian. So I want to see the British consul. I said, I shouldn't be here, I'm underage. I'm only 17, I shouldn't be here, I want to go home. All right, son, all right, sit down, sign here. Take this shilling, say after me. Have a cup of tea and a piece of cake. And he said something after him about swearing, and I don't swear. He said, you're swearing allegiance to the king. So I said, all right, swear allegiance to the king. I had visions of being a knight, you know, swearing allegiance to the king. But I didn't realise it, but I joined the British Army. And I said, what do I do now? He said, well, you get down to the docks, the Empress of Britain will be sailing on the noontide. Once you get aboard that, they can't touch you. If you get between ships, you're on British territory. I said, why would they want to touch me? He said, oh, well, you'll find out. You get down the ship. So I got down the Empress of Britain, saw the person. I said, where can I put my motorbike? He said, in the drink, we don't want it. And I had to lose a brand new Norfolk. Well, I'd had it 3 months. I had to lose it in the drink. Got to Southampton. I got there, the purser said, you've got that little railway track, there's a tin hut at the end, you're going to see the chap up there, and he'll get you home, because you can't get far on a shilling. So I goes to see this bloke, in a khaki uniform, with 3 pips on his shoulder and brass on his cap, gold braid. And I said, I've been sent to see you, mate. Mate, he said, stand to attention when you talk to an officer. So I said, I don't see any police officers around here. He said, I'm an army officer. He said, you're in the army now, you do what you're told. I said, oh yeah. Here's your papers. He said, here's your warrant. You go to Paddington, change at Manchester, and you'll be okay. Change at Manchester, I'm home there. Why should I change? So anyway, I went down to the station, got on a train, went to Manchester, got off and got on the bus and went home. That was on the Monday I got home. Said to Morris, I've finished that holiday in Spain. There's a war on there, and I don't like it, so I've come home. And I stayed home until the Friday morning, and Mother called me. She said, Bill, there's 2 soldiers in the bar to see you. Well, I don't know any soldier. I went in the bar. There's these 2 red caps, blokes with red hats on and armbands on their shoulder, on their arms, MPs. One of them looked at me, he said, 4616338, Trooper W. Higgins, is that you? I said, nope, I'm Bill Higgins, that number don't mean anything. He said, it does to us, you're absent without leave from the Duke of Wellington's regiment, you're under arrest. So they took me to Harrogate. Go see the Duke of Wellington's regiment, see the colonel before him. I explained to him I didn't know I'd joined the army, so how could I be absent if I didn't know I was in it? He said, well, you signed up for 13 years. 9 with the colours and 4 on reserve. So I said, you must be joking. Oh no, he said, the papers are here. That's how you got home. What are your hobbies? I said, languages, radio. He said, do you ride? I said, yes, sir. Well, I said, oh yes, I do stunt riding. Well, this is my chance. There's another motorbike coming up. So he turned to the adjutant and he said, we could use this chap. The adjutant agreed with him. He said, all right, under the circumstances, and as you were going to make a job of it, you're in the army now, you're going to make a good job of it. We think you'll be a good trooper. Case dismissed. And that was it. Take him away, get him his kit. See, so they took me down the quartermaster's stores. They fitted me out with some uniform. And jumpers, riding boots, bandolier, God knows what, spurs. You don't need them on a motorbike. But the corporal in the quartermaster's store said, get your kit on, he said, and we'll get you a mount. Well, I can forgive them, the Yorkshire tykes, that's why they talk funny. They must call a motorbike a mount. So I got my kit on. Then this corporal come for me and took me down the lines, as they call it. And see a stable there with a stallion sticking his head out of his eyes, this flipping peak here. He said, get that kitted and get on it. This lady's present, so I can't tell what I said to him, but I did tell him to go away in army language. And he said, fall in 2 men. I was under arrest in the guard room again. Next morning up before the CO. This time I'd been telling lies, swearing at an NCO, refusing to obey an order. And I explained to him I didn't know. I said, I don't like horses. They smell one end and kick the other. I said, no, I have nothing to do with them. He said, you do what you're told. I said, I won't. Oh, 7 days confined to barracks. Scrubbing dixies, peeling potatoes. And one of the boys that was also on Jankers said to me, he said, you want to go look on orders, Bill? He said, you've been posted. Well, to me, posted was a new expression. I just wanted to put a stamp on me and put me in a letterbox. Anyway, I went down the orderly room and looked on the door. There was my name there. Transferred, posted to the Royal Corps of Signals at Catterick. All because I like radios and motorbikes. So I went in the order room. I said, I see I've been posted to Catterick. What do I do? He said, have you got your gear? I said, yes. He said, we'll get it all packed up. He said, then come and see me again. We'll raise transport for you. So I got my gear packed, went to see him again. And he said, oh yes, you're the motorbike expert. He said, vehicle reserve depot is next door. You report there, they'll give you a motorbike. You've got to take it to Catterick, they want one. So that was my transport. I went to Catterick. From then on, I decided that the only way to beat a Mr. Joyner and play the game. I decided to knuckle in and learn. So I was taught how to be a soldier, rifle drill, discipline, route marches, all that sort of business. Then I was sent up to Scotland for commando training and living off the land, self-survival. And the first bit of survival I learned was never get in a captive balloon carriage, because it goes up in the air. He gets in this captive balloon basket, 6 of us in there and a sergeant. We get up in the air, and he said to the first bloke, he said, right, get your chute on and jump. So the bloke starts arguing about never had a chute on before. He said, I'll show you how to put it on. So he showed him how to put it on, fastened the whipcord, the strap on a hook, and he said, right, jump. And the bloke told him where to go, but he just pushed him and he went. I was 5th out. By this time I decided there's no use arguing with this chap. He's determined he's going to kill us all. He already pushed 4 out. So when I got there, I got my parachute on, strapped it to my bum, got the harness on. I got all this hook thing, and I turned around and I said, where do I stick this? Up there, son, he said. Don't be clever. Boom! Foot in my back and I'd gone. That was my first drop. So we hadn't been taught anything about how learning to land or anything. All I knew is that I was in the air and floating down, which was at Wick in Scotland. When we landed, or when I landed, I came down fairly level, fairly straight. They sent us then into a big barracks with a big gymnasium, and straps and harness hanging from the ceiling. And we were taught how to land. We'd already done one jump. We were told how to brace yourself, how to bend your knees, and how to control the rigging of a parachute to go where you wanted it to go. And in those days, we didn't have these fancy things they've got now with a nice square canopy. We had a damn great big balloon. And the sergeant major said, if it doesn't open when you jump, take it back to quartermaster to get a new one for it. And whilst we were up there, I was up there several months. Parachute training, learning how to live off the land, how to dig berries, how to dig fruits out of the ground, and roots, vegetables, how to pinch pigs and get chickens, shoot pigeons out of the trees, how to cook them. And it was good training. I enjoyed it. And then they sent me back down to Catterick. When I got down to Catterick, they put us in a place called Lee Catoo Lines. It was a concentrated area with barbed wire up. And for 6 weeks we were not allowed to speak English. If we were caught speaking English to each other, we were on charge. You got jankers for it, peeling spuds and cleaning dixies. We had a radio on all day long speaking German, and we were speaking Plattdeutsch, and the colloquial German. The canteen staff all fluent German. The teachers are all fluent German. And all we had to read or listen to was German. And for 6 weeks we were brainwashed in speaking colloquial German. But at the end of that time, because you ate, slept, dreamt, and on your waking hours you learned German, we were able to speak it. From there I was then sent to a place called Huddersfield, near Huddersfield, which was a penny on the bus from my home. where it's called Slowett. Slaithwaite it's spelled, but they pronounce it Slowett. And it's a Royal Signals radio school. I got him there, and the first day we were there was in this hut, and there's a corporal sits at a desk, and he's got a record player in front of him. And 28 of us trooped in together and sat down. He said, right boys, I'm going to teach you the Morse code. And he turned around and wrote it on the board, dots and dashes, A and B, etc. And I'm going to teach you all the Morse code. Well, I was already interested in radio. I'd already learned the Morse code and listening to Sir Rod Morse singers on the air. So it was a piece of cake. Sat there all week listening to him teach us Morse. On the Friday morning at 9 o'clock when the class started, he said, right, I'm going to put this record on and I'll run it through once. He said, and I'll put it on again and slow it down and alter the pitch. He said, and the first time anybody reads it, put your hand up, I'll sign your weekend pass and you can go home. So he put the record on, I wrote it all down, and he stopped there. He said, well, nobody's got that, have they? And he turned it over, he looked at me and I had my hand up. He said, what you got? I said, I got a copy. Bring it here, he said. So I turned it up, he looked at it. He said, this is a crib from last week's class. I said, no, I read it. Well, he said, you can't read Morse as quick as that in a week. I said, you're a damn good teacher, Corporal. I'd learned by now that in the army, a little bit of flattery will get you everywhere. So he said, oh. I said, well, you put it on again and watch me write it. So he put another record on, same speed, and I just wrote it down while I stood there writing it. And I said, well, it's not the same copy as last time, is it? Carry on, nonchalantly. And he said, oh. He said, I haven't taught you to read Morse that quick. I said, you have. I couldn't read it before I came here. And then I said, can I have my pass? He said, no. I said, what, 9:10? He said, I don't give these out till 4 o'clock. So all the boys started shouting, he's done it. You said he can go. Give him his pass. So he said, all right, I'll give you the pass, but you've got to go in the MI room first and see the doctor. So he stamped my pass and signed it and gave it to me. Sent me in the MI room. This bloke in there with a white coat on. He said, get your tunic off, roll your sleeve up. I said, what for? He said, you've got to give a pint of blood. He said, you don't go on leave with, you don't get out of the army with nothing these days. I laid there, he took a pint out of my arm, about an armful anyway. And he said, put your tunic on, go next door, you get a cup of tea and a biscuit. I looked at my watch, I said, the 9:15 bus will be leaving Huddersfield by now. I said, I can catch that and get home. And it's a damn great hill to run up. So I ran up this hill. And the bus came up from Huddersfield. We met at the top. Good job it was a decker because he got a rail at the back. I grabbed hold of the rail and pulled myself on the platform, collapsed on the seat. My conductor was an old school pal of mine. He said, cool, Bill. He said, what's the army doing to you? He said, you look dead. He said, you're alive, aren't you? I said, just about. All right, he said, I'll take you home. Because where our pub was, the forecourt of the pub was the terminus for the Yorkshire buses and the terminus for the Lancashire buses. None of them went over into each other's territory. So he took me home, saw me indoors. Mother looked at me, she said, good heavens, she said, that's what the army's doing for you, you're not going back. I said, I've got to go back, Mother, on Monday. Anyway, Monday morning I went back, reported down to this room again for Morse training. And the corporal was stood there and he got his stuff on the table, he got a little attache case on the table as well. Higgins, he said. I said, right. He said, you're promoted, temporary lance corporal, you take this class for a week, I'm going on leave. So he chalked a stripe up on my sleeve, chalked it up, temporary lance corporal, you take this class for a week. And so I had a week there. Then I had various other sorts of training until went back to Catterick, till the middle of 1939, June 1939, when I'd got mustered in all the jobs I'd taken, and they said I was proficient in all these jobs. I was getting a penny a day extra for each one of them. And did I want to volunteer for a diplomatic service job? So I said, well, what does it mean? Oh, he said, you got some foreign country and have a ball of a time. just a radio operator. He said, you probably operate once an hour a day, he said, and then the rest of the time is your own. I said, it seems too good to be true. He said, oh no, that's what happens, he said. I said, what country? He said, oh, I don't know that. He said, they'll tell you at Whitehall. So I said, what does it mean? He said, well, you're transferring out of the Royal Signals, you're transferring into the British Military Intelligence Company, Corps. And so I said, oh, sounds interesting. Do I get any more money? Oh yes, he said, you'll get paid. He said, because there's a commission for the job. He said, even though you're underage for a commission, he said, well, you get a special appointment. It's not a promotion, it's an appointment. But you'll get paid at the rank. Oh, this sounds all right. I said, what do I sign? So he gave me some papers to sign, then put me on a train. I had to report to what is now Whitehall, New Scotland Yard headquarters in Whitehall. I reported there and met a Major Buckmeister. You've probably heard of his name. Had a chat with him. He went and had a pint with him. And he was a very nice chap. He said, I can't promise where I'm going to send you. He said, but you know what the army's like. Where would you like to go? Now, I knew by now what the army was like. If you want to go to Iceland, you tell them Saudi Arabia, and vice versa. So I thought, I'll fool them. I don't mind. A moderate climb. I thought, what have I done now? You can't send me where I don't want to now. All right, he said, you've got to go and get your uniform. Take this envelope, he gave me a buff envelope. He said, go out of here, cross through Marble Arch, down Horse Guards Parade, Duke of York's Barracks. Take this to the Quartermaster's stores. So I went down Duke of York's Barracks. There was a bloke standing behind it, like a big couch, like a big draper's shop. And I went in, he said, Quartermaster's stores, this bloke lounging about there. I give him the envelope. He said, yes, mate, what can I do for you? So I give him the envelope. He tore it open up. He said, yes, sir, I'll be with you in a minute. Instantly. He disappeared and he'd come back with a set of uniform, brown shoes, brown boots and trousers, shirt and tie and a tunic that opened at the front, and a cap and a brown sandbound belt and a swagger cane. He said, you'd like to go in that little room over there and get changed, sir, I'll take your old clobber away for you. So I went and got changed, come back, got my uniform on. I only got one pip on then. I got one pip on the shoulder, and I got to report back to Whitehall. So I come back up, Horse Guards Parade, through Marble Arch. There's two Irish guardsmen on duty there, standing there at ease, you see. The bus isn't a lot on. So I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. Because I got level and they sprung to attention to give me a salute. So I returned the salute. Went about 50 yards past them. Oh, this is fun, I'll get another one. So I turned around and went back. Well, they can't do anything. I'm an officer and they're not. They're only guardsmen. So I went back and got a second salute. And then I realised what I'd done. When I got back in Horse Guards Parade and I couldn't get out without going all the way around Admiralty Arch and everywhere. So I thought, oh, well, they can't do anything. But I'll stay in the middle of these two because their bayonets look sharp. See, so I stayed in the middle and walked back towards them. But as I got up towards them, the one on my left took 3 smart paces forward, so they were almost nose to nose when I passed him. So he told me to go away in army language, but he did add sir at the end. So I thought, well, discretion is the better part of valour, I'll go away. And I went back to Whitehall. And he said, right, we've got a posting for you. Where did you say you wanted to go? I said, well, any moderate climb will do me. I don't mind. I don't want excessive heat. I don't want excessive cold. Somewhere it's nice and mild. He said, we've got just the right place for you. I said, where? He said, the British Embassy, Warsaw. He said, weather's fine there. He said, beautiful. This was June 1939. So I said, well, I've just heard on the news that Chamberlain has been having some problems over in Germany. Any danger? Well, he said, you're in the army, you expect danger, don't you? So I said, not my first posting, I said, give us a chance. So he said, well, there's been no danger. He said, you've got nothing to do. He said, you go over, he said, you get a second pip. He said, so you're a full lieutenant. He said, you go over there, he said, you keep your ears and your eyes open as a liaison officer. You will not be allowed in the radio room because they're civilian operators and they don't want you in there. Any messages you have, you do them with this code, and they give you a code book. You transfer them to this code, give them to the operator, and they'll send them for you. Any message we send to you is given to you by the operator. But you do not try to get in the radio room, you won't be welcome. So I went. When I got there, reported to the British Embassy. I got digs there, a room. 2 rooms next door to me, one each side of me. There's one American officer and one Canadian officer, both doing the same job as I. And all we did from time to time was report back on messages sent to us. We would send the replies that they wanted to know if we knew it. This went on until August 27th. We were being banqueted, going out to all the dances and the banquets and the big dinners and everything else, with all the high polloi of the Warsaw government, and they were really looking after us. Anyway, on the 27th of August 1939, the American officer came into my room. He said, "Bill," he said, "have you got orders to go home?" So I said, "Yes, I got them just now." He said, "So have I," he said, "and are you travelling light?" So I said, "Yes, that's all I got is 1 case." Well, he said, "Carry a case with us." He said, "We're taking 3 cases home with us." He said, "The Poles have given us a decoding machine." He said, "and we got to take it back to Blighty." We got it in 3 parts. I didn't discover till later that when we got back to England with it, it was the first of the Enigma machines, the Navy one. We brought it back, so we were sent straight up to Bletchley with it to show them how to put it together. I'd never seen the damn thing before, so I didn't know, but this American had apparently, so he showed how they put it together and how it worked, and where they went with that. So then there was nothing for me to do, you see. By the time we got home, the war had started. And it'd been all right if it hadn't been for Churchill declaring war on them. I'd been still sitting out there. But anyway, we had nothing to do when I got back. They decided that they got to do something with me. So the first thing they did, they sent me up to Scotland. I didn't know why I was going up to Scotland. They sent me to Gurrock to join a ship at Gurrock. When I got there, I found out I was the officer in charge of a group of Royal Engineers. I knew nothing about engineering. I was a radio engineer, or a radio officer. But they had to have an officer with them. They had to have a commissioned officer with them. They were being sent up into the Arctic Circle to put up a beacon. And we got on this frigate, and we put out to sea. I learned what my duties were then. Just all I got to do was to radio back to England when the beacon was ready to be switched on. Radio back on 4 megs, 75 metres, and let them know it was ready. Anyway, I don't know how many of you listened to the radio just after the war and heard a radio programme called the Navy Lark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Remember Lieutenant Phillips? I think he was a navigating officer on board this frigate, but he couldn't find his way out of a paper bag. And after 7 days of steaming north, according to my reckoning, we were going north. It got colder and colder, so I knew we were. We sighted a load of snow and ice. He said that was land. I thought, well, you need lessons. And we're putting you down here, he said, and putting you ashore in rubber dinghies. You go inland for 1 kilometre, north for 1 kilometre, and put the station up. And we landed, it was all snow and ice. So we went inland, and then we went up a mile, set the beacon up. I radioed through, we got my arrows up to 80 metres or 75 metres. Got my arrows up and radioed through back to the listening station that we were ready to switch on. And he said, "All right, stand by." So we stood by. Then come back again, switch on my signal of go. So he said, "Oh, wait," and he said, "Go." So I put my hand down, and the engineer in charge of the gear switched it on. Straight away he said, "Switch that damn things off, where are you?" So I read him the coordinates I'd been given by this Lieutenant Phillips. And he said, "Oh, pack your gear up." He said, "There'll be another boat coming to pick you up. You're only 1,000 kilometres west of where you should be." He put us down on the coast of Greenland, we were on the northeast coast of Iceland. So a few days later, another frigate comes and picks us up and takes us round to Iceland, round over the top, down to Iceland. And we went inland. When we got there, we put this beacon station up. You know what the northeast coast of Iceland is like, don't you? You've been up there. Just one massive glacier. They landed us on this glacier. We had to dig in, get the arrows up, drill holes in the ice to get poles up, and get the beacon going. And then I radioed through that we were ready, and the message was switched on, and the voice come back, bingo! You've got it, he said, you're in the right place. All you got to do now is come home. So I said, how do we get home? He said, you get down to a place called Hafnarfjordur and be there by the 1st of May. And you'll be picked up. Well, the ship I came home from Spain on was the Empress of Britain. We had 10 days to get down to Hafnarfjordur, walking across snow and ice and the glacier. We had food for 4 days and there was 14 of us. And we had 10 days to get down there. So we managed to eke out the food and got down to Hafnarfjordur, and I saw the harbour master. I said, there should be a ship coming in today, the British troops on board. That's right, he said, who are you? I said, we're British troops. I said, we're going home on it. No, he said, there's no British troops on Iceland until the 1st of May. This morning they'll be arriving. I said, we'll be here a fortnight. Oh, there'll be diplomatic messages about this. He said there'll be an incident and everything else. He said, it shouldn't be here. The agreement was 1st of May. Anyway, the boat pulls in the harbour. All the troops on board get off, the band gets in front of them, strikes up, they come marching up the harbour. I recognised the tune. I got my blokes together to march down the harbour. We met the colonel. I said, good morning, sir. Who are you? I said, Lieutenant Higgins, the one that was no damn use to you. It was the colonel of the 7th Battalion Duke of Wellington's regiment. That's when I beat you to it. We're going home on your ship. He didn't like that one bit. Anyway, I went back home on that ship, got back to Scotland and went back down to Whitehall. From then on, it was just one job after another into Europe. And this was after Dunkirk. We were going into Europe. And then I was sent to a place called Utrecht in Holland. And I was taught all about the Siemens telephone equipment. You know about that stuff. How to jumper the leads on the mainframe exchanges. Because what the idea was, in this country, the telephone lines are all the major trunk lines radiate out from each major city. In Europe, it's not so. In Europe, if you get a piece of chicken wire and lay it on a map of Europe, each bit of that 5-sided segment of the wire are trunk lines. So no matter where you drop a bomb, to get round that hole, all you got to do is to go to an exchange in north, south, southwest and southeast of it, and you can jump all the leads and bypass any damage done. So they were desperately short of telephone engineers, the Germans, in occupation. And I was sent from Utrecht, I was told to see the German officers, local officers, and volunteer to work for them as a quisling. I had Dutch papers, Dutch engineer papers, and I went to see this German officer and told him who I was. Oh, he snaps up straight away a glass of schnapps and sit down and have a chat. And yes, we're desperately short of telephone engineers. You can work for us. The pay is so-and-so. We agreed on rates. And he then went about getting me passes, Ausweises, passes, railway warrants and travel permits and everything, with the highest possible stamps on because of the important job I was doing. So from then on I was able to move about Europe as freely as I liked. I had to get into Europe and I had to get out of Europe. Now, one of the things we were taught of in Scotland, and I couldn't see the reason for it at the time, was how to bail out of a 3-ton truck over the side doing 30 miles an hour without hurting yourself. And I found out if you got your kit bag on, your pack on your back, got an army blanket and rolled it lengthways, put it around your neck, under your shoulders and tie it with a shoelace, you got perfect cushion so that when you bail out you can land on your shoulder and roll over. Didn't get out. Well, I didn't. 1 or 2 tried it, got out, but I didn't. I was lucky. And when I volunteered for this to work for the Germans, I came back home on a fishing vessel, with the papers and everything. They were copied at Whitehall, and I was sent back in. But the way I was sent back in, I was sent up to Newmarket. I had to report to the officer in charge of flying, and he said, "Oh, your plane's on the grass, where to take it?" I said, "Where am I going?" He said, "Oh, I've got your orders here somewhere." He scrabbled through papers. "Oh yes, you're going into Normandy." And he said, "You'll find your pilot in the bar." Oh, right, so we walked out, there's a Lysander standing on the grass. No canopy over it, just an open cockpit Lysander. But down the left-hand side of it, or port side as we said, there's a little aluminium ladder with 4 rungs. And he said, but he was knocking lemonade back. And he bought me a pint, and then he said, "You ready to go?" I said, "Yes." Right, so we walked out, and there's a Lysander standing on the grass. No canopy over it, just an open cockpit Lysander. But down the left-hand side of it, or port side as we say, there's a little aluminium ladder with 4 rungs. And he said, "Right, up you get." So I climbed these 4 rungs to get in, and I looked, I said, "Oh wait, where's my parachute?" And he laughed. He said, "Parachute with a Lysander?" "No, son," he said, "they don't go high enough." He said, "Even before you'd hit the ground, before it opened." He said, "You learned how to get out of a Lysander, didn't you, in your training?" I said, "No, I've never been in a plane." He said, did you learn how to get out of a 3-ton truck?" I said, "Yes." He said, "It's just the same." He said, "I come down to my feet, my wheels are 2 feet off the ground, I'm doing 30 miles an hour." He said, "I can stay airborne at that." He said, "And you bail out when you get the 2nd green light." I said, "What happens on the 1st green light?" He said, "Well, you take your safety harness, unbook your safety harness and stand up. Start climbing over the side, go down the ladder." He said, "That, in the meantime, I'm coming down to 2 feet off the ground." I said, "Suppose you hit the ground?" He said, "Well, that'll bump, won't it?" He said, "When you're 2 feet off the ground," he said, the green light will flash again. This time," he said, "let go and dive for the ground." He said, "For God's sake, keep your head down, otherwise you'll damage my tailplane." So all he was concerned about was damaging his tailplane. So with much trepidation, I sat there shivering all the way across the channel. Well, I hope he forgets and turns around and goes home. But no, he come down, 1st green light, buckle the belt, all my gear, I get up, get down over the side, I'm on bottom rung of the ladder, as low as I can get ready for dropping. 2nd green light goes and I went. And as I went, with my kit and the gear I got with me, I weighed about 12 stone. With a sudden loss of 12 stone at 30 miles an hour, 2 feet from the ground, he went, zoom, gone. I think he gave it the gas at the same time, but before I hit the ground, he was out of sight. Well, that was safe enough, I'm not going to hit his tailplane. And I landed then, and by that time, they set up a chain of safe houses throughout Europe, from Eiletherm right up to Blankenberg, for a chain of safe houses, and I was one of the few that knew where they all were. So I went to safe house, and from there my job was to... the British government commandeered loads and loads of investigative reporters, people who used to write the articles for the News of the World during the war, at the beginning of the war. They were good at finding out information and writing the articles, but they were not good at communicating. If they couldn't get hold of a telephone and say, "Hold the front page," they were done. So they had to have some means of communicating. Now these blokes were sent into Europe as agents, actually spies, to find out the information that the British government wanted. And our job, there was 28 of us of F-Force trained to do the job. Our job was to go and find these people, find the agent we'd been sent to find, get the information he'd been asked to collect, and radio it back to England and come home. We had little radios, you've probably seen some of these in the exhibitions, the MCR1 receivers, the brown suitcase pack. That was our means of communication. My favourite aerial was a very good one. I wanted a vertical for 75 metres. What better than a church steeple lightning arrestor? They go straight up. It's copper. So I had a little hacksaw blade, I cut the lightning arrestor off at 18 inches from the ground, scrape it clean, a couple of crop clips, a little ATU, and beautiful, straight through on 4 megs, no problem, every time. 599, no trouble. I had 4 young ladies on 24-hour watch waiting for me all the time I was away, at Hastings, in the bungalow at Hastings with their aerials up. They got 3 or 4 receivers so they didn't miss me, and the messages got back to them. I had no means of communicating or transmitting for more than 2.5 minutes. So all my answers had to be within 2.5 minutes. But you think 2.5 minutes, you can get a hell of a lot out in CW in 2.5 minutes, at 20 words a minute, or thereabouts. And that was the way I got through. I cut 11 church steeples in Normandy and Brittany, and I went back to one in 1965 and saw the local vicar. And what I used to do when I'd finished with them, I used to stretch any slack down so it overlapped, get a nail and a stone and knock a nail through it, so I thought, well, at least it'll carry the line into day, I hope. And I went back in 65 and showed the local vicar at Bayo where I'd cut his aerial. And I said, you get that fixed properly and the British government will pay for it. I never heard whether they did or not, but I assumed they would. And that's when I recovered a receiver I'd left in the kitchen in Bayo. In a panel in the kitchen, I'd put a receiver behind the panel. I lifted the panel up, put the receiver on the beam, come down. I had a word with this vicar about this, and he took me up to the farmhouse, and the daughter of the people that kept it during the war, she was then running the farm. Her parents had left it to her, and she was running it. She allowed me to go into her kitchen and recover my receiver. In all, I did 11 trips into Europe, and the same way each time I went in by Lysander. Only had one very memorable experience, and that was the 5th of November 1943. Again, this time I went from Newmarket. I went from various places like Chelmsford and Yeovil, Southend, Devizes, but on this occasion it was back to Newmarket. And November the 5th, 1943, I reported to the duty officer, the RTO, and he said, yes, he said, your pilot's in the mess. So I went out to find the pilot, bloke about my own age sitting there, drinking tea. And I said, you're taking Lizzie out tonight? Yes, he said, you're William of Orange. I said, that's right. Oh, he said, we're going to Brittany, do you know? I said, yes, I know where we're going. So I hope you do. Yes, he said, I said, have you done much on these Lizzies? Because by this time it was my 9th flight, you see, so I was sticking my chest out. I'd done it several times, piece of cake. So I said, have you done much on these Lizzies? He said, well, no, today. He said, I did some circuits and bumps this morning. I said, you done any other flying in them? He said, no. He said, I've just done 35 hours on Spitz. He said, and they said I'd done enough, I got to have a rest. I said, well, there's a big difference between a Lizzie and a Spitz. Well, I know it, he said. He said, all right. He knows all about it. So we walked across the grass and I got aboard. And he revved the engines up. I thought, my God, how many revs does he need to take off? This is not a Spitfire. He gave it all the revs he could, and he let the shocks away and the brakes off, and shoom, he shot for it and stalled. Well, it didn't stall like a car stalls, the engine just cut out on him. So he had to get it started again. Then he took off a little bit slower next time. And he came up from Newmarket, and he came up towards Norwich. I thought, where the devil's he going? Especially we go east. You go to Cap Grenay. But no, he came up towards Norwich and out to Yarmouth. Dropped down the coast again at Yarmouth, followed the coast down until he got to Lowestoft. Then dropped down to 2 feet from the water. And he went all the way across the English Channel, 2 feet from the water. I was seasick. I'd done 9 trips. This was the 10th actually. I'd done 9 trips without any trouble. And on this trip he was so close to the water that the buffeting from the air pad between the waves and the plane was causing him to do that with the waves, and I was seasick. And he come to Cap Grenay, he stood it on its tail, climbed the cliff face and straightened it out. He looked for a field to land in. Well, I thought, oh, he's not going to land, he's only got to go 2 feet down. See, so I got I didn't wait for his green light. I thought, blow this bloke is new. I'll wait, I'll be ready when he is, you see. So I stood up, I unbuckled the safety harness, stood up in the cockpit, hanging onto the dash at the front there, waiting for him to go down. I was watching him go down. He's lowering, and I suddenly noticed that the furrows on the field, we were not going up the furrows, we were going across them. Oh my God, I hope not. And there was one furrow higher than the others. He hit it. Nose in, prop in the ground, now went straight over his head. A couple of somersaults, landed on my shoulders, had my blanket around my pack, landed on my shoulders, went back to the plane, and he was still in his harness and he broke his neck from whiplash. So there was nothing I could do except set fire to the plane, because there was no fuel kicking about. And I ran for the hedge, put a match to the fuel and ran for the hedge. And I got in the hedgerow. I thought I'd got to hide up here now until the juries will have seen this come down. They'll go and investigate the flames. And it'll all be gone by the time they get there. I got in the hedge and I heard a rustling in the hedge. There was somebody here beside me. I was quick. So I got my knife out of my socket. I had a Bowie knife in my sock. That's the only armament I ever had. I was never given a gun. They didn't trust me with them. And I got the knife out of my stocking, crept down the hedgerow till I could hear this bloke breathing, heavy breathing. And he was hiding up in the hedge as well. And I jumped on him, held the knife to his throat, and he said, "For God's sake, I'm English." He was a Spitfire pilot who'd hit the silk just about an hour earlier and trying to find his way home. Anyway, I took him to a safe house. A few years ago, I gave this talk to the Aircrew Association of Norwich at Sprouston. And after the talk, the little chap stood up. He said, "Bill, can I buy you a pint?" I said, "Anybody buy me a pint?" He said, "Well, you got me this." And on his lapel, he got a little golden caterpillar. I said, "I got you that?" He said, "Yes, November the 5th, 1943. He said, "I'm the bloke you plucked out of the hedge. You nearly cut my throat." He said, and I reported back that I'd been picked up and taken to a safe house after it in the silk. He said, "The manufacturers of the parachute give me this. It's Caterpillar Club." So we had a couple of pints that night, and I got a taxi home. Left the car there. But the main job, how are we doing for time? 20 minutes? Wrap up? The main job after D-Day was reconnaissance work. I did the jobs into Europe, 11 trips in all until D-Day. And the way we got home was a sailing vessel, a fishing boat coming from Newport near Blankenberg. There's a safe house there. We'd report to the safe house. The skipper of the fishing boat would put his pennant up if he wanted to go and fish. He'd have his 5 crew on board, probably 4 of me. And the pennant would go up, the guard commander would come down with his guard, and Teutonic efficiency, they'd line all the 5 crew up on the aft deck, count them, make us stay there. He'd put his crew on board and he'd go in the Coast Guard cutter, and his crew would man the ship out beyond the breakers. His crew would get off, leave us 5 to go out fishing, and we'd come straight to England. And he'd get within sight of the coast, he'd radio through an MTV to come out and guide us in through the minefield. I'd get off there and report to the RTO and get sent and exposed him. That's how I got home each time. At Skipper, when he was going back, he would fish on the way back to Germany. And he would pick up, if he lost me or any other people he was taking, he would pick up a free French or free Pole wanting to get into Europe for some reason. And he would take him in as a member of the crew. So that when the Germans, when he got within the breakers, he'd put them pennant up or light according to time of day. The German commander would come out the Coast Guard cutter to meet him, line his crew up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, you come back with 5, good. Didn't look at the papers, went out with 5, come back with 5. And they would let him in and pinch half the face. That's all they were concerned about, was pinching half his face, let him sell the other half to the Belgian housewives. So that chap made a regular trip. He was doing it all through the war. Anyway, after D-Day, the main jobs I got were reconnaissance work for various units. I would be attached to to a unit to do reconnaissance work for them because I knew the area so well. I was able to move about freely until Christmas of 1944. I could use my passes and travel on the trains and no problems. And on one occasion I was coming up, if I wanted to move anywhere, I would see, first of all I'd report to a telephone exchange. You'll see the engineer in charge and say, I've been sent. Well, they're so desperately short of telephone engineers to do this job that they grab you, take you down to the exchange, put you on the mainframe, tell you what they wanted done, and he'd go out and find digs for me. Then he'd come back and take me to where he found the digs for me, and I'd work there for 2 or 3 days, doing the job I'd been sent to do. Then I would go to him with a letter that I'd received that morning. I had several of them, saying my services were demanded with the highest possible stamps and passes with the signatures on at Brussels Telephone Exchange. And he'd look at it and go, I've got to get you there quick. All right, I'll go and get you a train arranged. And he'd arrange a train for me on the passes. And he put me on. On this occasion, I was coming up from Munich to Brussels, and he put me on a slow train stopping at every station. And this is just as an example to see how good my German was. I knew it was good enough to get by. But on this occasion, I could hear the buzz on the train, people talking, that there was a couple of escaped soldiers or airmen on board, a couple of Britishers on board. And yet we were being stopped at several stations. Nothing happened until we came to one station in France, and the place was full of Gestapo, an SS troops and this SS commander, and he's searching the train. I thought they must have got wind of these blokes. So I thought the only one thing to do is to get this train moving fast. Give him time to search it and give the boys a chance. I'm all right. So I jumped down, went up to this commanding officer and played hell with him in his own language. Showed him my papers and told him that his activities were subversive to the Third Reich and he could hang for it. So we had a chat with the station master. Station master sent a couple of blokes up the line with detonators and stopped an express coming through and put me on it. It didn't have the effect I wanted, but it did get me moving quicker. Then I got home again from there. This went on until December 44, when I went down to the Ardennes sector to do a reconnaissance job for the American forces. Oh, another one of the beauties of having the 2 pips on my shoulder and being able to attach myself to people, I was always attached to the officers' mess. I'd go in and sign for my drinks, knowing damn well I wouldn't be there when the PRR come round for the bill at the end of the month. So I used to sign for all my drinks and everything, and then disappear. So I did all right out of that. But on this occasion, they sent me down to the Ardennes sector for the Yank to do a reconnaissance job for the Yanks. And I told this Yankee officer I wanted a motorbike and we were going to do the job for him. And he said, he ain't got a motorbike, but he got a Jeep. You see, so I could have a Jeep with a radio and everything. And okay, I went into Liège and saw this high wall. Just brick wall, the big gates, and the gates were wide open. This Yank said, we've been bombarding this place for 4 days and 4 nights, we want to make sure it's empty before we move in. That's what we sent a couple of blokes down with machine guns, you'll soon find out. Oh no, he said, don't do that. He said, you go and recce it for us. If you come back, he said, we know it's all right. Sorry, nice, sure, I mean, it's your job, isn't it? I said, all right, give us a vehicle. So I went down, saw this high wall, but that's an ideal place to hide the Jeep while I nip into town and see if there's any gold and silver kicking about. So if the place is deserted, they probably left the jewellery behind and the valuables. I'll do a bit of looting. You're not supposed to, of course, but yeah, you got to think of your old age. So I drove in through this big prison gate wall, drove in to hide the Jeep, and I didn't need to. There was about 50 Jerrys stood there with submachine guns pointing at me. Pioneer Corps of the German Army. So I got out of the Jeep, put my hands up, said, comrade, look what I've just stolen from the Yanks up the road. Do you want me to go back for another one? No, they didn't want me to go back for another one. They want me to see the commanding officer. So I went to see him. explained to him who I were, showed him my papers, and he threw them on the table. He said, we don't need telephone engineers anymore, we need drivers. And you're a driver. So I said, yes. I said, I'll go back and get you another Jeep. No, you won't. He said, there's a Mercedes-Benz staff car outside with 2 officers to go to Stettin in Poland. You'll take them. So what could I do? I couldn't argue. So I took these big Merc staff car, took these 2 officers up to Poland, to near Danzig, Stettin. And apparently when we got there, what they were doing was taking charge of it wasn't so much a concentration camp as a transit camp. And it was full of Polish Jews, women, girls and women. And they were being segregated into those that were able to work, they were being sent to work camps. Those that were unable to work were being sent up the road to the gas chamber. And that was what was going on there. And these 2 officers had been sent to relieve the 2 that were there before. I was put into a hut. I thought they were going to let me take the staff car and go back, you see, next day. But no, next morning I was summoned. The officer told me, he said, there's a troop carrier, a passenger carrying vehicle there. He said, you'll take it 10k up the road to the gas chambers with these people. There was 30 women on board. But I said, what guards do I have? I was already planning an escape. Oh, she said, you don't need guards, they're all ill. They're ill, they're unfit to work, they won't fight. She said, they won't try to escape. You just take them up there and leave them and come back. So I thought, well, all right, so what guards have I got? None, he said. So I got, well, this truck gets out the first gateway, the gate had closed behind me, the gates open. I was out on the main road. Up the road, I toddled. About 4 or 5k, I stopped in the back. So any of you women know there's a safe house around here? Safe farm? I said, I'm English and I'm going home. Take us with you. I said, no, I'm going to drop you somewhere at a safe house, then I'm going on. So they said, oh, all right, we know where there is one. But the way to identify safe houses, registered safe houses, right through from Poland to Germany, through Belgium, France, Holland, if they had linen hanging out in the garden, the first 3 items on the linen line nearest the house were blue, white, blue. That was a safe house. No matter what the rest of the linen colour it was blue, white, blue. 9 times out of 10 it would be a safe house. You've got to make discreet inquiries first to make sure. It was usual that that was a signal. So they told me this farm, they knew where this farm was, which was an underground movement. And I went there, and fair enough, he had blue, white, blue flying, so I took them in, and the farmer said yes, he could get rid of them, he'd get them processed on the safe route home or back to civilization. And so I said, right. He said, what about you? I said, oh, I'm officer. As long as the fuel lasts in this truck, I'll keep going south. And then I'll be away on foot. Well, these women then started clamouring around me. Go back for my mother, go back for my sister, go back for my daughter. Anyway, I was soft-hearted, I said, I'll go back. So I went back for some more. I did get my reward for that. In Israel, there's a cemetery to the Holocaust. Cemetery of Remembrance to the Holocaust. And down the centre of the cemetery, there's an avenue of righteous Gentiles. And there's an avenue of trees. And each tree has got a plaque on with the name of someone who saved the lives of Polish women during the war. I have the honour of having my name on one of those trees, because it did get reported. So anyway, I went back. I got back in the camp, nothing was said. Next morning I was sent for 9 o'clock, another truckload. Taking the same place you took them yesterday. That was the orders. So I got aboard, there was another 30 going here, this time I'm definitely going. Can't push me up too far. But through the first gate, gates closed behind me, but before the other 2 gates open, there's 2 German officers, got one each side of me. Lugers sticking in my ribs. You will go to the gas chamber. They had found out. They'd missed the 30 I should have taken that day before. So anyway, we get to the gas chamber. I refused to drive them back. I thought, well, I'm going to get shot anyway. What can I do? They can't do any more than shoot me now. So I refused to drive them back. And they said, you can't drive. So I'm not driving you. I said, we can all walk back 10k. I said, but I'm not driving you. I said, I'll wreck the truck if I get in it. So they confab for a little while, and suddenly there's a rum, rum, rum. Motorbike and sidecar turned up, bloke driving it. I was in the sidecar, an officer on the back of the pillion with a machine gun pointing at me. We went back to camp. I was up before the CO. Subversive activities against the Third Reich, for which there's only one penalty. Execution. And as it was between Christmas and the New Year, they said I was going to be executed at dawn on New Year's Day. And they would make an example of me. But by now they didn't believe my Dutch papers anymore, and they'd found my British dog tags around my neck. As a dead giveaway. And they put me in a hut about as big as this room. With 3 windows down the side and a door. No door on it, no glass in the windows. This was November 31st, 1944. And there's a big Polish chap in this room, about 6'5" in height and as broad as a barn. I said, how the hell did they get hold of you? He said, well, you can't do much when you've got a gun in the back of your neck. He said, I got caught looting food for the family. He said, I'm being sent down the salt mines in a couple of days' time. And there's nothing else I can do. He said, I can't break free from here. Nobody gets out of this place. So we were chatting, and I said, I'm not looking forward to morning very much. And then just before midnight, this Polish doctor working for the Germans came out one of the huts. He got his white coat on. And he come over to the window of our hut and started taking the mickey out of this Polish chap. He said, you want to work for the Germans, they'll look after you. He said, this chap knows. I said, yeah, they're going to shoot me. Yes, he said, but you stop working for them, you're working against them. You do the same as I do. He said, I'll survive the war and I'll be all right. So whilst he was chatting, this Polish chap suddenly pulled a silk, I can see it now, a silk pajama, blue pajama cord from behind his back, slung it round his neck, pulled him into the hut, hit him with a boot and put him to sleep. I took his clothing, his white coat, his Glengarry, his stethoscope round my neck and his clipboard in my hand, and I walked out the gate and said, Happy New Year and good night to the I didn't find out till 1976 what happened that night. The sequel was that every time that German doctor, Polish doctor woke up, this Polish bloke hit him with a boot. He couldn't afford to have him talk, so he hit him with a boot every time he woke up. By dawn next morning, he was in a natural sleep. The firing squad come in for me. He was laid there with my clothing on, my dog tags round his neck. They took the dog tags off him, put him up against the wall, shot him, took the dog tags to the commanding officer, and the execution's been carried out. So the commanding officer put the dog tags in an envelope and notified Geneva, British Red Cross in Geneva, that they executed a spy. Geneva notified Whitehall, and Whitehall notified my widow. So my wife was getting the widow's pension and the insurance money backdated to January the 1st, 1945, and I didn't turn up till May 45. But this is the part that people say you couldn't have possibly have done it. I advise you to try it, it can be done. When you push, you'll do anything. I walked from Stettin to Holland in 9 weeks, 900 miles in 9 weeks, living off the land. Is there much to live off when there's 15 inches of frost in the ground? You can't get roots out of the ground at 15 inches of ice. There's no berries on the trees in January. There's no fruit on the trees. There's nothing in the fields. So I'll say this, that the elastic in the braces of that doctor's trousers was damn good elastic, made a good catapult. I was a dead shot with a catapult. I could hit birds out of the trees. I think they were wood pigeons, I'm not sure, but they were big enough to make a meal of. I don't know what they were, but by the time I'd plucked the feathers off them and cooked them, they were all right. I could light a fire without causing attraction, because at that time Germany was losing the war and they were desperately short of steel. And for steel you need the Bessemer process, and for Bessemer process you need charcoal. So there were charcoal burners all over the northern forests of northern Germany. So another plume of smoke going up in the air wouldn't be noticed, or it wouldn't be suspect. So if I caught anything I could cook, I could light a fire and cook it. I found out that pigs squeal when you pick them up. I heard some pigs grunting in a farm one night, and I crept up carefully and I saw this sow with about 6 little pigs having their dinner for a midnight feast. I thought one of them will do me nicely for breakfast. So I jumped over into the sty, grabbed one of these pigs and pulled it off, stuck it under my arm. The door of the farm opened and the voice shouted, "All for our fire." And I thought, there's no point in seeing it. Well, keep going, Bill. I kept running. I heard the bang. I thought, ha ha, you missed me. And I kept going. And when it come dawn, I holed up, lit myself a fire. Fortunately, in this doctor's white coat, in the pocket, in a leather case, was the old-fashioned razor strop, you know, the old-fashioned bone-handled cutthroat, and it was really sharp. So I was able to shave the pig, cut its throat. I cut its throat during the night. I was able to shave the pig next morning, and suddenly when I was shaving, I said, "Oh, little pellets into behind." I'd had it under my arm. And when I took it and looked, he'd hit the pig in the behind, a whole load of little pellets in about a circle that big. I took the white coat off, laid it on the ground and looked, and there wasn't one in the coat. Every one of the cone of fire had gone into the pig's bum. Missed me, you see, so I led a charmed life. Anyway, I managed to eat some of the pig. I cooked it and ate some of it. That was all right. I'd learned in Scotland how to tickle trout out of a river, but I found in northern Germany how to break the ice first. And by the time you tickle a trout, your hand is so damn cold you can't get hold of it. Anyway, I managed to get a couple of fish, birds out the trees. I was 12 stone 6 when I left the camp. 9 weeks later, when I came up amongst the American forces in Holland, I was 7 stone 4, doing 100 mile a week. They whipped me down to Ostend, put me in hospital in Ostend, and then sent me across to Tunbridge Wells. I was kept incommunicado because I was an agent. They said I said, "I'm not an agent, I'm an agent's communicator," but they wouldn't let me talk to anybody, wouldn't let me write home, wouldn't let me telephone. So anyway, they finally gave me a pass and a warrant to go home. So first thing I did was get to a telephone box. I got some cash, and I got to a telephone box, tried to ring my wife, let her know I was on the way home, and no answer, lines were down. So I got on the train and got home, and I knocked on the front door. She came and opened the front door and fainted. Doctor's surgery was across the road, so I ran across the doctor's surgery, saw his wife, who was a receptionist, and told her my wife had just fainted. Could the doctor come? She said, "You just turned up unannounced?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You've been dead since January, and no wonder she fainted." So they came across and revived her, and I went down to the insurance company to pay the insurance to Liverpool Victoria, to pay the insurance company the money back. They wouldn't have it. There was too much paperwork involved. You forget it. I said, "Oh, all right, I'll take another policy out." They said, "Like hell you were on your job." And they wouldn't risk it. They're cowards, these insurance people. But the Newcastle office soon got in touch with us. They wanted their pension book back, British pension. She couldn't keep that. And that's how things ended. Any questions? Time good.
What happened to the brass superior?
Oh, I don't know what happened to that. I lost that when I was 15-year-old. He had that back for the Norton. The British said I'd get my rewards. There's lots more things I could tell you about what happened during the war, but I did this same thing for Anglia TV, and Anglia TV made a video of it intending to show it, but it had to be submitted to Department D because I said a lot more things than I've said tonight. And Department D cut it about and censored it a lot. There's 1 or 2 escapades I got up to that I'm not allowed to talk about. I won the MC, but I never got it because I wasn't allowed to talk about it, and the Whitehall said there's no records of it. I gave this talk to the Royal Navy Association, who the chairman, Mike Misson, is a police inspector. Being a policeman, he was very suspicious of everything anybody tells him. And he went to Whitehall to make inquiries about my story. They told him to mind his own business. As agents of F-Force no longer exist, there's none left alive. And about a year later, he went to Israel on a holiday. He's a Jew, Mike Misson, with a name like that, he must be. He went to Israel on a holiday, and he came back from Israel and he rang me up. He said, "Bill, I owe you an apology." He said, "I didn't believe half your story." He said, "I made inquiries at police headquarters in London." He said, "I made inquiries at Whitehall and got rebuffed." He said, I've just come back from Israel and I've seen your plaque on the Garden of Remembrance, so I apologise. The British gave me some awards, in which I've got them here. And without the brevets to go with them, they're no damn good. So that is one that is very rare indeed. The Quadi Partisan, it's Polish. It is a Polish VC. Now you only get this posthumously. To get it, you've got to save life. In England, to get the VC, you just risk your life in saving others. In Poland, you've got to give your life to save others to get their VC, and it's only given posthumously. In 1976, they asked me to go to a meeting in Turcoing, and they gave me that medal there and said it was very singular, as I was still alive, and I could prove it by talking to them. They let me wear it. So there's the brevet for it. The British gave me 7 medals, well 6, and the French gave me 1. There's the British medals. Perhaps you can get it closer with them if you want, Jack.
Yeah, they got better.
That's the 3945 Star, the France and Britain Star, the Defence of Britain Medal, the Victory Medal, the Territorial Army Medal, because when I signed up for 13 years, it was 9 years with the colours, 4 years on reserve with a reserve or a TA unit. That's how I finished up in Norwich as a permanent staff instructor at Nelson Barracks. That is the Legion's Cross of Merit. And people say, what Legion? Well, there's only one Legion, a French Foreign Legion. I was 3 months attached to them as an interpreter, so they gave me a Cross of Merit. That is the lowest form of chivalry that Britain ever gives out. That's the Knighthood of the Order of St. George. I am a Knight of the Order of St. George. Those are the British ones. These are the foreign ones. The Polish VC, the Distinguished Service Cross Intra-Allied, the Polish-French Resistance Medal for working with the resistance, the Federation of Ancient Combatants in Europe for working in Europe from 39 right through to 45, Eisenhower's Medal for pinching his jeep, given to me personally by Eisenhower. The Polish Army's Escapers Medal. If you're in the Polish Army and you escape from a prison camp, you get that medal. And that's the Polish Cross of Freedom and Independence for working for the Poles. There we are. Any more questions?
I'll just make a comment, Bill.
Yes.
Obviously I didn't know at the time, but my father-in-law was, our future father-in-law, was Met Officer to 136 and 138 Squadron at Tempsford.
At Tempsford?
Most of the war.
I probably saw him.
We probably did.
There was a Met officer that allowed me to get home to get married in 1941 at Devizes. What used to happen from Iceland, we used to come down to England with a mail plane. And the jocks had found a cute idea of getting leave. They couldn't get leave from Iceland, but they found a way of doing it. They volunteered to go on the mail plane, on the mail run. It was a Lockheed.
Hudson.
Lockheed Hudson, with the bomb doors that opened underneath the fuselage. All the mail bags would be down the centre waiting to go. They'd come over Prestwick, the bomb doors would open, the boys would push the mail bags out. But they made sure they had a parachute themselves and fall out with them. And it took about 14 days to pick them up and send them back to Iceland, so they got leave in the meantime. I heard about this and I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going with them. So I asked him if I could go on a mail run. And the OC of the mail, yes, he said, we want an officer on that run. He said, these buggers keep jumping out of the plane. He said, they keep falling out. He said, they fall out. I'm sure they jump. He said, if we had an officer on board with them, he said they wouldn't do it. You don't let them. So I said, all right. I thought, little do you know I'm going out over Manchester. Anyway, we come down to Prestwick, and there's 2 of these Scots lads were pushing the bags out, you see. And I said, you keep strapped on, boys, you're not going out. I'm in charge, I'm going out to Manchester. Anyway, they didn't bother jumping. We come to Manchester, and the bomb bay's open, they pushed 2 parachute bags out. I looked down, I couldn't see a damn thing, it was pitch black. So one of these lads said, go now, sir, go now, sir. I said, hell with that, close them doors, I'm gone, I'm stopping on board. I'd kept chickened down, I wouldn't jump in the dark. Anyway, we went down and landed at Devizes. When we got to Devizes, fog was coming in. The Met officer said, you'll be no flying this weekend. This was Friday, you see. He said, "There's no flying this weekend." I said, "I'm going back to Iceland in the morning when we refuel." He said, "You won't be flying before Tuesday." I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes." Well, by this time I got my 3rd PIP. So as a captain I was able to sign passes and railway warrants. So I went in the orderly room, signed myself a railway warrant to go home and the pass to go home for a few days. I rang Elsie up and told her, "So I'm coming home, we're getting married tomorrow." See, that's on 21, I was 21 on the Monday, so this was the Friday following. I said, "Mother can't stop me now." So she said, "Yeah, okay, I've arranged everything for you." I went home on the train, got home, got married at 1 o'clock at the King Street Presbyterian Church in Oldham. And at 1:30 we're having the banquet in the hall next door. And these 2 red cap officers came in. The Captain Higgins were looking for you. So I didn't hear him, I disappeared. My brother-in-law gave me his car keys and nice scalpel, you see, and I went straight home with Elsie. We got home, went indoors. I just got my tunic off when the flipping doorbell started ringing. I better go and answer it. Well, it was a tourist house and there was no back door. There's these same 2 officers that they come down to the house, said, "You got to take it to Ringway." I said, "All right, so I got to take this car back to my brother-in-law." He said, "Oh no, you don't. You've slipped us once today, you're not doing it again. You're too slippery, we know what job you're on, we've got to take you to Ringway." So I said, "No, I don't go to Ringway." I said, "I'm going to Devizes in the car." Anyway, I lost the argument. They clapped the cuffs on me. I couldn't argue then. Put me in this staff car and took me to Ringway. From Ringway they flew me down to Devizes and I caught the plane back to Iceland. That was November the 15th, 1941. I never saw my wife again till May 1945. And so you can imagine what happened in the meantime. But anyway, there we are. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
The last few minutes I've been thinking about how to follow that, and I don't think I can, if you know what I mean. A wonderful story. If you were there, hopefully this has been a good memory for you, and if you weren't there at the club meeting that night, then I'm sure, like us, you've heard a wonderful story. Amazing to think that was just over 26 years ago when the club met, as I said, at the Ugly Bug at Colton. There are a few comments from you here. I'll quickly read them out, but we must say again thank you very much to Gordon G3PXT for giving us this tape which was converted to a memory stick by Robert G4T UK. Colin Mann says, "Fantastic, thank you Gordon and all involved will bring this to us." Dave G8ADM, what an amazing story. He said he must be around 100. Many thanks. I don't think he's with us anymore, sadly, Dave, but thank you for watching. And Paul G3VPT says, "My Uncle Bill was blown out of a Bren gun carrier in North Africa and sent back home to hospital. For years after, bits of metal were still coming out of his body. Also brought back from Dunkirk. He never once talked about the war." Just to leave you with this, if you do have any feedback, by the way, that you'd like to send us, we'll be very happy to read it in 2 weeks' time when we're back with NARC Live. So if you've got memories of that, you saw yourself or anything like that, we'd love to hear from you. Just a quick reminder though, what's happening this weekend at the club. Saturday and Sunday, it's Lighthouses on the Air at Haysborough Lighthouse. Please go along and say hello. On Sunday at 7 o'clock, the GB2RS News on GB3MB. And Monday, the Monday Night Net at 7:30 on GB3MB, and at 8 o'clock, the 80-metre CW Net on 3.543 megahertz. Then next Wednesday, August the 21st, we're meeting at CNS School with special guest Marco DM5ML from the Koblenz Club. We hope to see lots of you there. Until then, please keep sending us your pictures. As I said, your feedback on tonight. We'd love to hear from them. But until next time, from Tammy M0TC,
Bye-bye.
from me, David G7UP, good night.